Recording of the week.
Welcome to Recording of the Week. The idea is to talk about music and artists that you may not have heard about, but not necessarily focusing on just that. Also, as busy humans, sometimes we need to just take 5, so I'm going to do my best to keep this series of videos short. Now, this first video is just me talking about a particular recording, but I plan on having weekly guests as a discussion. So if you like this video, please hit like, subscribe, and share. Now, on to this week's video. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. I'm Mark Dalton, and this is Recording of the Week. On this episode, I'm featuring an album called Jubilee. This was recorded by Harry Manx and Kevin Bright. Now, you may not be familiar with either of these two artists. Harry Manx comes from a folk blues background and plays an Indian instrument called the mohan. Kevin Bright, you may not have heard of him either. He's a wonderful guitar player. Most notable, toured extensively with Norah Jones over many, many years. Now, Kevin Bright comes from Ontario and has an incredibly musical family. My friends and I got to know one of his brothers, Garth, at a house party in Northern Ontario while we were touring with our band. And subsequently, he has a twin brother named Gary, who's a wonderful keyboard player, has toured with every top Canadian band you can think of. Back in those days in the 80s, he was actually touring with Corey Hart. Now, when the Bright brothers weren't out performing with various acts and bands, they had a collective called the Bright Brothers. And it was quite the scene back in Toronto for the musicians to go to their gig and just be in awe of all of their musical abilities. I was introduced to Harry Manx back in the early 2000s when I had a music store in Canmore, Alberta, and got to know Harry Manx and instantly fell in love with his version of the blues with this mohan, which is like a sitar essentially, and he incorporates that into his music. To the best of my knowledge, Harry Manx hails from beautiful Salt Spring Island in British Columbia, and Kevin hails from Espanola, Ontario. Now, fun fact how these two met, they were complete strangers and were both performing at some kind of music workshop. Now, they met backstage, didn't talk about what music they were going to play, and got up to perform, and apparently Kevin's band just instantly nailed it with Harry's mohan, and they just hit it off musically. Now, by no means is this my favorite recording by either of these artists, Kevin or Harry, but I think it's just wonderful to hear the collaboration by these fellas and what they can create. This recording was put out under the Northern Blues Music label and produced by David Travers Smith, who also has a credit playing the tambourine. Now, this album starts out with a cover of Diving Duck Blues, which I think really sets the tone for this recording, and just such a good feeling blues tune. There's also an incredible cover of Taking It to the Streets by the Doobie Brothers. I've actually shouted out this song at a Harry Manx concert. I think everybody looked at me like I had 3 heads. There's also a cover of Voodoo Child's Slight Return on this, and I happened to find a copy of this, just ecstatic to find this at a used record store in downtown Nanaimo called Fascinating Rhythm. So if you get a chance to listen to this recording or any other recordings by Harry Manx or Kevin Bright, please do so. Leave a comment below, tell me what you think. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.